This recording will show you how to create a new user in MediPlan. To create a new user, you must first be logged in as administrator. Then you go to the other menu to users. You will here have a current list of all of your current users. From here, you can also change users' passwords. So if a user disables themselves, you can come in here, double click on the user. Up here we have this disable flag. So if a user types in their password 5 times wrong, it will automatically disable their account. So you can come in here and uncheck disabled, and if you hold the shift key down and click the change password button, and then save the entry, it will automatically change the password to the Talon default, which is MediPlan with a capital M, 1A. Then when the user first logs in, it will get them to pick their own password. Creating a new user, you click the new user button. You first give the user a login name. You then choose the user's group. Now, different groups give different access. Physicians would be the highest access. They have pretty much access to everything other than other users' profiles and system settings like the administrator does. The next highest would be medical. Now, medical has pretty much all the same access as physicians, except they're unable to view the accounts menu, as well as they're unable to do things such as merge patients or delete reports, etc. Then we have billing, which is specifically designed for a billing person, so it doesn't give them access to the other menu or the data menu. So they really only have access to the accounts menu. Then we have scheduling, which is the opposite. They don't have access to the accounts or the other menu. They really only have access to the data menu. Then we have letter writing, which has very little access. All they have access to is the toolbar, which allows you to create new letters, new reports, etc. And finally, we have system admin, which is not much used. What it's designed for is if there is an outside technical company that you have helping with users, etc. System admin does not allow any access to data at all. It just allows access to the other menu. So I'm going to pick this physician user group. Then you want to change the password. Now you cannot use the shift click on change password for a new user. You actually have to create one. I still always make it MediPlan 1A, that way it's easy to remember, and you just type it in twice. If the user is going to be a physician, you check box physician here. The difference between the physician group and physician is you can have other staff members be in the physician group. But whereas if you've got the physician checkbox, they get the physician inbox and have permission to do prescriptions. Next, we have the default physician number. So if you're a physician number 6, for example, you would put physician 6 here, or physician 2. That also goes for, we've got Dr. Richard House, who is signed on number 2, so his user is going to have a default physician of number 2 for sure. Now, if he's got a specific MOA, they would also be physician number 2, so that means when you log in, it opens to physician number 2's schedule, physician inbox, etc. Now we've got the custom resources to view on the schedule. Now the custom resources are the 3 to 4 letter code that is displayed on the schedule button for each physician. Now, if you have a smaller clinic with less than 6 physicians, you do not need to use this because it will just display the first 6 physicians by default. If you've got a larger clinic with more than 6 physicians, or you only want to see a specific physician's schedules, I can put in their resources. So this is not a valid resource. I think it might be RH for Richard House. So now that I've put in one button, when I open the schedule, I'm only going to see this button. Now you'll notice that there's 8 spots. There's only 6 buttons on the top of the schedule, but when you use the schedule overview, it allows you to see 8 different schedules. So you would put the first 6 would be the buttons you want to see on the normal schedule, and then the last 2 would be included on the schedule overview. Over here, we have a list of all of the users in the system. This would be your messaging and tasking list. So when you go to create a new message or a new task, you have a list of people that you can send it to. So you can hit add all, it'll add all of the users, or you can remove specific people that you don't want to send messages to, and this would be your list. Here we have which label printer that specific user will be printing to. The most popular printer we have now is the Brother, and there's up to 4 different label choices. So I could say I'm using Brother printer and I want to use label 3. The difference between the labels can be explored. Basically, some will include the family doctor, and some will include the referring doctor, some will include both, some will include none, etc. Also part of the messaging, some clinics do not use messaging, and you can say messaging off. Also, by default, your messaging box will pop up every 5 minutes if there's a new message. Sometimes that can get a little annoying, having it pop up so often, so some users choose to increase that timeout. So instead of popping up every 5 minutes, it will only pop up every half an hour. Now that does not include urgent messages. Regardless of what you have a time set here, if you have an urgent message, it's still going to pop up right away. The next we have chart access. Now these would be the little icons that you view in the chart. So if I go all on, now by default nobody really uses ophthalmology and physicals no longer exists. So this also allows you to give and take away access to users. So you might have a user that you don't want to be able to see lab results, and you also don't want them to be able to see encounter notes. So by unchecking that, this user is going to have all of the tabs except for lab result and encounter, so they can't see specific patient details. This is also a popular setting on new appointment clear from recall list. Basically what that means, if a physician has put a patient on a recall list and this user goes to book the appointment, with this setting checked, when they book the appointment, it'll automatically come up saying, do you want to remove from the recall list? This makes for easier workflow, in my opinion. Can dismiss a recall with no appointment. That setting I usually only check on clinic managers and physicians, so regular staff cannot uncheck it. Allowed to send billing file to Alberta Health is basically exactly how it seems. It gives you access to send billings and pick up payment files. Do not auto-create chart numbers for new patients. If you are not running on a chart number system, you can check this so your charts will not have chart numbers. Another common one that I checkbox is style toolbars on by default for letters and encounters. Basically what that means, if this is not checked when you do a new letter or a new encounter, you can't see the bold, the font, underline, etc. With this checked, it automatically comes on. Now, for most users, start schedule and login just as it sounds. It'll open the schedule when you log in. Most places go with new scheduler layout and new scheduler with exam room, because that also gives you access to the new scheduler overview. I'm going to skip over some of the settings that are not too often used. Over here, again, we have this user as a system administrator. Again, we do not want to check that. Here, it allows you to select default printers and default label printers. Here, by default, if you do not touch MediPlan for 30 minutes, it will automatically time out. Now you can increase that, and you can also, if it times out, it'll pop up with the login screen so you can retype your password. If you're often switching computers in the clinic, it's a good idea to set quit on timeout, so it'll actually shut down instead of put a place for your password. Now, under default agency for new billing, it defaults to Alberta Health, but if you've got front staff who do not do Alberta Health billings, but they do private billings, it's a good idea just to change it to private. All of this is really doing is saving clicks. At the top of the scheduler, you'll notice that you've got a little drop box that defaults to billing, and you can change it to registration, chart, summary. It's just a one-click field. Now, per user, you can choose by default which one automatically comes up. So if you've got an upfront staff who never does billing but often goes to the registration, again, all this is doing is saving time. Default encounter template, most physicians will by default use the SOAP note. So instead of them opening up an encounter to a blank one and having to choose SOAP note, they can pick SOAP as their default, so when they log in, it automatically uses SOAP. Now that can be overridden once it's chosen. Moving on to page 3. This is each user that does scanning and picks up faxes needs to have a pathway set. Essentially how it works is when you scan, we configure your scanner to go to a specific folder. For example, the DI scans folder in the MediPlan folder. Then what we do is we tell MediPlan to also go there. So my scanner is going to scan all of my scans to this folder, and I'm going to tell MediPlan this is where you look to pick it up. We built in a new feature that when printing a report, it comes up allowing you to say, I want to print page 2 to 4 only. If that's not something you will use, it is faster to turn it off. We have also programmed in for your directory to automatically show Google Maps. If that's not something you use, it is faster to turn it off. We have the option here when creating a new letter, it'll automatically put the letter to the referring doctor. This will automatically address it to the family doctor instead. Spell checking on the fly, basically when you're writing letters and you spell something wrong, you can get it to red underline just like it would in a Word program, and you can right click and fix. Pop-up registration on arrival with an AKA present. In the registration form, there's a spot to put an also known as. If you have this checked, their chart will pop up just reminding you of that. Flagged comments for pop-up for chart basically means right now if you've got a flagged comment, that will only pop up if you book the patient appointment and arrive the patient. With this check, it will also pop up when you open the chart or the new encounter. Encounter status on new encounter incomplete. By default, encounters are made to be complete. But for example, if you're a physician who likes to review your notes at the end of the day, you would make them all by default go incomplete so you can access them through your physician inbox. Another common one you pretty much always want to check is auto-register new patients on scheduler. What that does, if this is not checked and you book an appointment for a new patient, that patient only has an appointment. They do not have a chart, so you are unable to search for them. With this checked, it will automatically create them a chart, making things a little easier. Dashboard off. If you notice sometimes when you open up a new encounter, you'll get a little toolbar that always pops up. That's referred to as the dashboard. If you do not like that, you can turn it off. Patient find window, fixed position. What that means is right now how it works, when you type in a patient's last name to search them, and if you move the mouse over to the side, without this checkbox, the window of the list of patients is going to open wherever your mouse is. So if you've got your mouse to the side, it's going to open over there, and sometimes it can get lost and confusing. So with this checkbox, it'll always open in the middle of the screen. The rest of the buttons are pretty much self-explanatory. Do not show billing on encounter screen. Do not show macros on encounter screen, etc. Those are just more user preferences. And then we save, and that's all there is to it.